Welcome to the Wellness Lab Digest, where we help you to absorb powerful, life-changing insights from top wellness experts with our daily, bite-sized wellness podcast summaries. Each episode is packed with distilled, powerful takeaways to boost your health and well-being. To support this podcast, please scroll down on whatever app you're listening on. Ratings and reviews are helpful. Even better, just send the show to a friend. Or check out our sponsors at the bottom of the page, or simply click the Support the Show link.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. You ready for this?
Always.
Okay, well, today we're going to be talking belly fat.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, right? Everyone's favorite topic, but also hormones and how to make peace with food.
Ooh.
Yeah. We're diving into this really cool interview that Dr. Mindy Pelz, she's a women's health expert, did on the Jay Shetty Podcast.
I love her.
Yeah, she's great. And in this interview, she really doesn't hold back, which I appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
She gets into like why all of the typical dieting advice might actually be working against us and how to start working with your body instead.
Such an important message. It is so refreshing to hear an expert kind of challenge that typical weight loss narrative.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like one of the things that really stood out to me was her perspective on belly fat. I mean, how many times have we heard that belly fat is like a sign we're doing something wrong?
Right, exactly.
But she kind of flips that script and says it's actually our body's way of protecting itself.
It's true. It is. Our bodies are smarter than we give them credit for.
Mm-hmm.
And she explains that if you have too much glucose or, your hormones are out of whack, or you even have toxins floating around your body, we'll actually store them in belly fat.
Oh, wow.
As a way to keep your vital organs safe.
That's amazing.
Isn't that crazy?
That makes you think twice about all that self-criticism we heap on ourselves, right?
Totally. Yeah. It's not like about willpower.
Right.
It's about what's causing those excesses in the first place.
Really? Yeah.
And this is where things get really interesting, I think, because she talks about how our modern food system is full of these chemicals that are not doing us any favors.
Oh, no.
Things like obesogens, which are basically these sneaky compounds hiding in processed foods and plastics that can actually mess with your hormones.
Oh, no.
And even reprogram your stem cells to create more fat cells.
Wait, so you're telling me that some of the stuff in our food is actually making it harder to lose weight?
Yeah. I mean, that's what Dr. Pelz is saying. Oh, my God.
It's like a double whammy.
Yikes.
Not only are these chemicals contributing to weight gain, but they can also mess with our taste buds.
Uh-oh.
Making us crave more of the very foods that are causing the problems.
So it's like, I'm thinking about like my late night cravings for chips. Like, are you telling me that's not just me being weak? It's like I'm fighting a losing battle against my own biology.
That's what she's saying. Yeah. And speaking of cravings, get this. She says the trillions of bacteria living in our gut, our microbiome, can actually influence what we want to eat.
No way.
Yeah.
So it's not just about willpower. It's about the tiny organisms in our gut kind of calling the shots.
Exactly. She explains how these microbes send signals to the brain, and that can, influence our cravings. And if we're constantly feeding them processed foods, they're going to keep screaming for more of that junk.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So if I'm understanding this correctly, to change our cravings, we actually need to change what we feed our gut bacteria.
Now you're getting it.
Okay.
And that actually brings us to another key point she makes, and that's fasting.
Okay.
But she's not talking about strict daily fasting, like what a lot of people think of when they hear fasting.
Mm-hmm.
She actually suggests mimicking our ancestors' natural feast and famine cycles by, varying the length and frequency of our fasts.
I like that. That makes sense, right? Like back in the day, people didn't have access to food 24/7.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And she even gives a super simple tip to kind of ease into fasting.
I like that. What is it?
Just gradually push back breakfast.
Oh, that's a good one. Okay.
Yeah.
I like that one.
And you might be surprised to learn that fasting isn't just about weight loss.
Really?
Yeah. It can actually improve how your body uses insulin, give your metabolism a reboot, and even change the makeup of your gut microbiome.
Oh, wow. So even if someone isn't looking to lose weight, there's still some pretty good reasons to give fasting a try.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to switch gears a bit and talk protein.
Yeah.
I feel like everywhere you look, people are obsessed with hitting their protein targets.
Oh, yeah.
But Dr. Pelz has a slightly different take on protein.
Yeah. She cautions against getting too caught up in the numbers game.
Okay.
And instead suggests focusing on the quality of protein you're eating at each meal.
That's interesting. I always thought more protein was better, especially for women trying to build muscle.
Well, she actually shares her own personal experience with this.
Oh.
She tried following the recommendation of, 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, and it backfired.
Oh, no.
Yeah. It actually led to her gaining fat, not muscle.
Wow. That is a real eye-opener. So how do we know how much protein is enough without getting lost in the protein math?
She suggests a really simple approach.
Oh, I like that.
Think of protein as the base of your meal and build around it with, healthy fats like olive oil and fiber-rich veggies.
Okay, I like that. That's easy enough to remember. And of course, everyone's different, so pay attention to how your body responds to varying amounts of protein and kind of find what feels best for you.
Exactly.
Speaking of finding what feels best, I thought it was super interesting how she emphasizes eating to support hormone production, especially for women going through perimenopause and menopause.
Right. That's so important.
Yeah.
Because as estrogen declines during those life stages, women can actually become more resistant to insulin, which can, lead to weight gain and other health challenges.
Yeah.
So it's important to support our hormones as we age.
That makes a strong case for paying attention to how different foods impact our hormones and adjusting our diets accordingly.
Absolutely. And, she even breaks down how to eat for different phases of your menstrual cycle.
Wow, really?
Yeah. So, for example, she suggests ketobiotic, which is kind of a lower carb approach for certain days, and hormone feasting to support progesterone production during other phases.
So it's like we can actually use food as a tool to kind of work with our natural hormonal fluctuations.
Yes.
Instead of feeling like we're constantly battling them.
Exactly. I love how she really emphasizes, understanding our bodies and listening to what they need. It's, it's all about a sustainable approach to health that's personalized for each of us, not some one-size-fits-all plan.
I love that.
Yeah.
This is great. This is great stuff.
I know. I'm so glad we're talking about this.
So she also talks about a complete lifestyle overhaul for lasting health.
Yes.
And she kind of breaks it down into these 5 key shifts, which she calls the 5 to thrive.
Love it.
Yeah, no, it's a good one.
Yeah.
So should we dive into those next?
Let's do it. I want to hear what these 5 shifts are all about.
Yeah, me too.
And how we can incorporate them into our lives. All right, so let's break down these 5 to thrive, these 5 lifestyle shifts that Dr. Pelz recommends. They're all about building healthy habits that will actually stick.
Right, and support our well-being.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the first one, which we've already talked a bit about, is fasting.
Right.
And she really emphasizes that it's not about deprivation, It's about giving our bodies a chance to rest and reset.
Oh, I like that. Like hitting the refresh button.
Exactly.
Okay. So what's number 2?
Number 2 is all about variety in our diets.
Okay.
So she encourages us to ditch the same old routine, those food ruts that we get into, and embrace a more diverse range of, nutrient-rich foods.
I like that. I definitely get stuck in my food ruts sometimes.
Right.
Yeah. But how does that tie back to what we were talking about earlier with, the gut microbiome and all that?
Well, think of it this way. The more variety we introduce to our diets, the happier our gut bacteria become.
Okay.
It's like throwing a diverse buffet for those little guys.
I like that. Yeah.
And a happy, diverse microbiome means better overall health.
That makes sense. So we're talking about more than just switching up our veggies.
Right. It's, incorporating fermented foods, different types of fiber, and really experimenting with a rainbow of fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
Getting all those colors in.
That leads perfectly into the third shift, which is actively supporting our microbiome, not just through our food choices, but through lifestyle practices as well.
Yes, exactly. And, she's a big advocate for prebiotic-rich foods.
Okay.
Which basically act as fuel for the good bacteria in our gut.
Okay. So what are some examples of that?
So think of fiber-rich fruits, veggies, and legumes.
Okay. So those are the good foods for our gut. What about lifestyle stuff? What does she suggest there?
Well, this is where the mind-body connection comes in.
Okay.
She recommends things like yoga and mindfulness to help manage stress, which can actually wreak havoc on our gut health.
Really? I never realized how much stress could impact our gut.
Yeah, it's huge.
Wow. It seems like everything is connected.
It really is. All right, ready for shift number 4?
Hit me.
This one might surprise you.
Okay.
It's detoxing.
Detoxing.
And she's not talking about those trendy juice cleanses.
Right.
She actually advocates for detoxing our bodies and our environment.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so what does that look like in practice? Like, how do you detox your environment?
Well, on a practical level, it means like being mindful of the products we use.
Okay.
So, things like personal care products, cleaning supplies, even the food we buy.
Mm-hmm.
She really encourages people to reduce their exposure to harmful chemicals that can mess with our hormones and our overall well-being.
So things like reading labels and doing some research on the products we're using.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then on the physical side, she suggests things like sweating through exercise or sauna use.
Okay.
To kind of help our bodies naturally flush out toxins.
So it's like a good reminder that our health isn't just about what we put in our bodies, but also what we're surrounded by.
Totally.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we've got one shift left, number 5. What is it?
So this one is something I think a lot of us, especially women, can relate to, and that's managing stress.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
She even calls it the rushing woman syndrome.
Oh, yeah. I know that feeling. You're constantly running around trying to do it all.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what does she say about managing that?
She really encourages us to prioritize rest and relaxation and, get this, the power of saying no more often.
I know. Easier said than done.
I know, right? In our always-on culture.
But it makes you wonder, like, if all that rushing around is actually doing us more harm than good in the long run.
Totally. And she, she highlights the importance of finding those practices that help us truly unwind and reconnect with ourselves.
Okay.
Whether it's yoga, meditation, spending time in nature, or even just taking a few deep breaths throughout the day.
Right. Yeah.
Just giving your nervous system a break.
Yeah. And that's probably super important for women because we tend to take on so much, responsibility for others.
That's such a good point. I love how she reminds us that self-care isn't selfish.
Mm-hmm.
It's essential.
Right.
If we're not taking care of ourselves, how can we show up fully for the people in our lives?
I love that.
Yeah.
These 5 shifts, or these 5 to thrive, as she calls them,
Yeah.
they're really empowering.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about quick fixes. It's about building a lifestyle that supports our body's own natural wisdom.
Exactly.
What resonates most with you from these 5 shifts?
I think the one that speaks to me the most right now is the emphasis on managing stress.
Mm-hmm.
It's so easy to get caught up in the busyness of life.
Right.
And forget to prioritize our own well-being.
Totally. It's like we're constantly plugged in and on the go.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder to, slow down, breathe, and really listen to what our bodies need.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not about being perfect, right?
No, not at all. She really encourages us to be curious and to try new things and to find what works best for us as individuals.
I love that about her approach. It's not about following some rigid set of rules.
Right.
It's about understanding our own bodies and making choices that feel good and sustainable in the long run.
Exactly.
It's almost like this whole deep dive with Dr. Pelz has given us a whole new way of looking at our health.
I think so, too. It's like instead of getting caught up in the latest fad diet or, feeling overwhelmed by all the conflicting information out there.
Right.
We can approach our health with a much deeper understanding of what's really going on.
Yeah, and taking ownership
Yes.
of our health.
Yeah.
Right? Not just blindly following what everyone else is doing.
Exactly. That's where the real empowerment comes in.
Yeah.
It's about making informed choices based on, knowledge and self-awareness.
I thought it was really interesting how she talked about how our environment can actually impact our health.
Yeah, it's easy to only think about what we're eating, but our surroundings play a huge role as well.
It really does. It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. From the chemicals in our everyday products to the toxins in our food system. It's like we're constantly bombarded with things that can disrupt our hormones.
Exactly.
And lead to all sorts of health issues.
And that's why it's so important to become conscious consumers, really thinking about the choices we're making and how they impact both our personal health and the health of the planet.
I have to admit, it can feel a bit overwhelming at times. Where do you even begin?
It doesn't have to be all or nothing.
Right.
Small changes can make a big difference.
So what's a good first step?
I think one simple thing we can all do is start reading ingredient labels more carefully.
That's a great tip.
Yeah. Just becoming more aware of what's in our food and products.
Mm-hmm.
We can start to identify and avoid those potential hormone disruptors and toxins.
It's all about that knowledge, right?
Absolutely. Knowledge is power.
And as we make these changes, it's important to remember that we're not alone in this.
We're not. There's a whole community of people out there who are, kind of waking up to the importance of this holistic approach to health.
Yeah.
And they're supporting each other along the way.
Dr. Pelz is a great example of that. Her work is all about, sharing knowledge and empowering others to take control of their well-being.
I love her message of self-love and body acceptance, too.
Me too.
It's so refreshing.
Especially in a world that's obsessed with unrealistic beauty standards and restrictive diets.
She encourages us to embrace our body's natural rhythm and nourish ourselves with, food and lifestyle practices that truly support our individual needs.
It's not about striving for some unattainable ideal. It's about finding what works for you.
Yes.
And creating a sustainable approach to health that feels good, both physically and mentally.
This deep dive with Dr. Pelz has been so fascinating.
I agree. It's like we've gone on this journey of discovery and learned so much. So as we wrap up, I'm curious to know what our listeners are taking away from this conversation.
Yeah. What resonated most with you?
And what steps will you take to reclaim your health and create a more vibrant life?
We'd love to hear your thoughts and reflections in the comments.
Until next time, keep diving deep and keep exploring the fascinating world of health and well-being.
Thank you for listening to the Wellness Lab Digest. If you receive value from the podcast, I have 3 asks of you. 1, share the show on social media with your friends and tag the show at the Wellness Lab Digest on Instagram. Number 2, please leave a rating and review in whatever app you're listening on. And last but not least, please let me know what topics you would like us to cover in the future. You can contact me at empoweringmen.org/contact. And right now we have a free ebook to get you started on your wellness journey as well. That's empoweringmen.org/contact. To support this podcast, check out our sponsors at the bottom of the page or simply click the Support the Show link.